If they had been white, your public health service would never have agreed to do this study in the first place. They wouldn't have dared. But because they were black, nobody cared. Because they were black, you, the U.S. government, thought that they were expendable. Now you're trying to push the blame off on me? Nursing them men was my life, mister.
Can you show me something beautiful?
He tell you looking for a girl. Take me. Well, I come for the job.
I can't pay very high wages.
Any wages is better than nothing.
I know it wasn't in your heart to hurt my Jimmy. We both have to live with it. I don't hate you.
Mrs. Robson, will you come with me, please?
You despicable bastard! This is perversion!
Your Honor, please!
I want to know who is on trial here.
Any further outbursts, Miss Moore, and I'll hold you in contempt.
Feeling is mutual.
Sit down.
Your Honor, under the circumstances, I ask we move for continuance until such time...
Until such time as what? I die?
I'm warning you, Miss Moore.
Is that the tactic? Accuse me? This door swings both ways. If I can't get justice here, I will get a gun and I'll do it myself.
That's enough. You're in contempt.
What have I got to lose? I'll be dead before you can ever get me to trial.
Bailiff.
You need strength in your upper body.
Oh, really? And why is that?
Because I'm not taking you to the potty every 4 hours wiping your butt, and pretty soon you're gonna be too weak to do it for yourself. How's that?
I want you to help me.
Thank you, Father.
I can only conclude that your people are the most pernicious race of odious little vermin that ever nature suffered to crawl upon the face of the earth. Oh, come on, Captain. You're not the first man to get a thrill from murdering someone. I see it all the time.
Get out!
Or what? You'll kill me? Does my sexiness offend you? Does it come as a surprise?
Oh, Lord.
That I dance like I got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs?
Phenobarbital?
It's easy. It's painless. It's just a few extra drops. He simply falls asleep. It's time to give your brother the peace he deserves.
I ain't crazy. It's them drugs they giving me.
Mom?
No, lie. I got to protect you. But I can't do it if you keep drugging me.
Mom,
do not touch me. Got no cause to worry for my sensibilities. I ain't felt the end of a lash in more years I can't recall. I ain't worked a field neither. Well, once I served, now I have others serving me. The cost to my current existence be Master Shaw broadcasting his affections and me enjoying the pantomime of his fidelity. If that what keep me from cotton-picking niggas, that what it be. Small, at reasonable price be paid for Shaw. Could we have killed Abdul Fattah today?
There is a strong possibility.
Dr. Butler's rescue. Where are we now?
Jack Dawkins and his team are on standby, ma'am.
Let's bring him home. Of my 3 girls, you most remind me of myself.
Why are you even here?
Because if I was there with you girls, you would not be in here.
All I did your whole life was protect you. Your junkie mama dropped you off at Mabel's and never looked back. Your daddy didn't want you? Who was there? Changing your diapers, tending your needs, dealing with your whining.
I saw the way you used to flirt with Uncle Pete when I was little.
Don't believe his lies!
You told us you didn't get to the gorge in time.
Yes, that's true.
Then how did you see the look in Mufasa's eyes?
How do you keep doing it?
I do my job. You want to play there's good guys and bad guys. And I'm one of the bad guys. But I give these men respect, Marty. All the way through.
Can you show me something beautiful? Show me something beautiful. Can you show me something beautiful. Show me something beautiful. Show me something beautiful.
Please join me in welcoming the amazing Alfre Woodard. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome. Oh, these are comfortable. Yeah, we're sinking right in. How does it feel to watch a compilation like that of your amazing work?
I just thought, that a lot of that was before I used moisturizer. But it's like, first of all, whenever I work, and when I see it, I usually see Kasdan crew screening and I don't watch again. But when I go, I don't see myself, I see character. So it's sort of, it's fun to see those people. The people that I studied and I visited. And it's kind of like looking at your junior high school yearbook.
Yeah. Who exactly is that person? I know, exactly, they're familiar, but they're not quite you almost, yeah.
But they're not me, but I go like, oh my God, I know her. And mainly what you think about is, I think about the process. All my life, the people that you spend your days with determine the quality of your life. And some of us, we are in situations where we don't really care about the people. If we could, we'd have a different set of people that we spend our days with, but I'm very lucky. I'm very fortunate that the people I get to spend my days around, they are interesting, intense. Some of them are strange, crazy, wild. They are artists, creative people. And so that determines the quality of my life. So when I look at a picture, I think about a project, those are my people. Those are the people that have come along with me in my life in 45 years. That's my community.
So I'm curious if we can go back to how you found that community in the first place. You know, you're growing up in Oklahoma. Do you remember when you first felt either like an actor or like you wanted to be an actor?
I didn't think about it until, this is really heavy. I never thought about it. I was an athlete. I was a cheerleader, and an athlete, and I was a student leader, so I wasn't shy, but I remember being sort of recruited into being in something because my English lit teacher, American lit teacher, knew that I memorized things really quickly. And so she needed somebody to memorize something fast and be in a play. And so I remember her saying something to the effect that, I said, oh, sister, I couldn't possibly stand up in front of people and pretend to be somebody else. And she said, it's not for you, Alfre, it's for God.
Hard to argue with that.
And I had a good life. I had a lot of love and support and creature comfort. So I figured, okay, this one's for you, God, and then we're even. And it was I was a bit of an odd child. I was odd, but you can be odd and you can shrink back and be ostracized, or you can be odd and just stay in people's face and they gotta accept you. So it was always like, I'm glitter and cheese like that. But I remember I felt like I was walking around on dry land doing the breaststroke all my life. And when I got on stage in the middle of a play, between your entrance and when you're there in this space, I felt this incredible sense of freedom that I had never felt. I think I was probably 15, and I felt like I'd been doing that breaststroke, just walking around on land, and then somebody tipped me into the water, and suddenly that stroke in the right environment gave me a place I wanted to be forever. So still my favorite place to be is between action and cut.
Did that feeling at the time, if you remember, did it feel like sustainable? Did you say to yourself, there is a way that I can do this, you know, as a career? Or how pie in the sky did that seem to you? Or were you?
It didn't seem nothing seemed impossible to me ever, because my father and my mother, especially my father, always said, quote, you can do any damn thing you set your mind to. So that was about, you know, going to the store, getting what I asked you to get, talking to an adult when you were 7 years old that he needed you to go say something to and bring a message back. But the thing was, so that's how I started acting. How I got into film was that Brother Patrick O'Brien, same school, Bishop Kelly High School, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Brother Pat was a big film buff. And so they would shut down the school once a month, and they would bus the entire school, 750 kids, to the nearest cinema, and Brother Pat would show whatever film he was on about. And then you'd have to write a dramatic critique, 9 through 12, write a dramatic critique, and then discuss it in any creative or humanities or language class you had for that week. And I can remember sitting in the dark at the South Roads Mall Cinema, and you're like sucking on Twizzle, and you're like, oh, you know, we're going to the movies. Brother Pat's taking the whole school to the movies. And you're sitting there, and then subtitles come on, and you're like, this is not a movie. This is work. And I remember seeing Sundays in Sabelle, and just sitting there, and it's about a relationship, sort of a surrogate father relationship that develops between a middle-aged man and I think she might be 5 or 6 years old girl in an orphanage, where she doesn't have anybody to come see her, and he comes to see her every week. And I was completely swept away and weeping, reading subtitles when I didn't want to. And then I saw Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner and Citizen Kane, The Red Balloon, Incident at Alfre Bridge, Red Badge of Courage. And this is 68 to 77, 67 to 70. And you guys know that was the time of man. We were trying to stop the war. You know, Stonewall had happened. Women were burning their bras. And what we thought was impossible, or never possible, just to think about it, happened. Medgar was killed. Malcolm was killed. Bobby was gunned down. Martin was killed. And that was a real awakening for young people to know that, oh, you can kill people? That especially that are saying the things that you believed in, that you bought into. You bought into everything it said in the documents and the things you were taught in civics, and then it just went slap, 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 nope, you know, make it too real and you're gone. And so somehow watching those films and being a young social activist then, I just thought, this is it. I want to join that. This is a powerful tool. You know, we're sitting here, we'll make these movies and somehow we will change history. And so that was the idealism I went into it with.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I think it's a crucial one that carries through till now, I mean, with Clemency, which we'll get to later. So I guess when you were thinking about in your sort of nation artistry as a young person, the art and the advocacy were sort of never separate entities. They were all sort of part of that feeling of swimming, because that's just how it is to be in the world. Yeah. How did that change when you left Tulsa and went to BU, right? You went to Boston University? Yeah, what changed about your vision then?
Well, I knew, because of what I was watching, I knew it took, and then having Rachel Ann, you know, helping me discover, oh, that's the end of it, that I'll be involved. I just want to join it. I'm running off and I'm going to join these film people. And I had dreams of, you know, we were going to buy a ranch in Colorado and we're all going to make films. We had those dreams. But I knew that it involved artistry. I knew it involved craft. So
I wanted to go immediately to a professional training situation. I'd always seen myself in Southern California, and I can tell you that story later, since I was 4. So I thought, okay, I auditioned at several places, but I said, okay, BU, I'm gonna go to Boston because I'll never live on the East Coast. Of course, I married a man from New York. And, but I went there because I felt I had this thing. And when Rachel Ann rang my parents and said, oh, you gotta come see this. Alfre is such an actor, she's an artist. And my parents were like, oh, good, oh, okay, because I guess I was pretty weird. I used to get checked for worms and things, and every few weeks I was being checked for something because I was a little off center. And so, so I decided that I would go to turn what I felt was a calling into a skill so I could depend on it.
When you're in a situation where you're being sort of, I don't know, trained to, you know, find a conduit for all of this creative energy, this passion that you have into maybe a more formal craft, like you might at an acting school, for example. Like, did you feel restricted by that, or do you think it helped you to have that kind of, those guide rails in a way?
The guide rails of
craft, I guess, of sort of like method and all that stuff, yeah.
No, because the only freedom you can truly have is within discipline. So you need to know the notes before you can play the instrument. So yeah, that's important.
Were there any memorable roles you played in school that you hold dear?
I have one, but I cannot tell you what it is. I cannot.
You have to go to VU and dig through the archives and find out.
It was in the, okay, I did legitimate ones that, you know, you might know. Of course, I was Acme in Little Foxes, and I was Electra's alter ego in a very experimental version of Electra. I did several things, but there's this one, oh, I can't. Okay, I'm gonna tell you. I wasn't going to, because I can't see y'all, I don't know you. I know everything. You can't say anything now that didn't go around the world, but I don't care. I'm 66 and I don't care anymore. You grabbed hold of that freedom when you were 30. Yeah. People couldn't tell you, hey, just tell the truth. Be yourself, Bill, whatever. But anyway, no, I don't want to spend time on that. Okay, I'll tell you. All right. So okay, we were doing the, you know, I got to be on the main stage. You're supposed to wait till you're junior, till you get to the main stage. This is encumbering me. Can you not hear me? No. I can hear you. This weighs like 10 pounds. I'm not kidding. So you could be you had to wait till junior year. Well, I got to be on stage my sophomore year. Yes, they needed a black woman to be Addie, so you know I got to be it. But there were choices; somebody else could have been it. So I just kept getting, you know, a little bit of choices, and we rallied hard to get, because there were probably 7 of us, maybe. 2 of them were designers. One was a production designer, Wynn Thomas, who was quite brilliant on Broadway and on film. And so, you know, we really pressed to be able to have some productions. There were so much black theater, black screenplays, and literature being done. We said, okay, well, you know, let us do something that is relevant, that is, you know, close to our vernacular and all that. So they did this one. They brought Jim Spruill, who was a wonderful director. He was at Emerson then. He did come to VU. And so they're doing a play. Well, they all sort of felt that, oh, Alfre doesn't get a big role in this because, you know, she's been on the main stage. It's like, no, I was on the main stage, you know, in a supporting role. So they gave me this tiny role that had no lines.
And I'm gonna tell you the truth, it was Ed Bullen's play, so I didn't write it, you just have to remember the time period and the frankness. My character, so all this great stuff happened to these characters. My character was the greasy head in lady. That's Ed Bullen's play. And you know, like I said, this is a different time, and with, you know, the frankness. And so all I was supposed to do is just kind of be there in the background. I had no lines and the focus wasn't on me. So I just thought, all right, okay. So I said, don't put me in the background. I was in charge of my costume and everything. So I found this tight leopard outfit, and you know, it was like lame pants and leopard top. And I took a wig and I just put Vaseline all over it, and I put it there, and I did my lipstick, and I smoked a cigarette, and I go like this. And so I just sort of walked around in the background. and then I bend over from the waist, and then sort of teeter, but anyway. No one knew what that play was about because they were watching.
That's what you gotta do, I guess. Yeah, you know,
I was immature, but you know, you gotta fight to be right.
So you have both this formal training, but also clearly a not a rebellious streak, but like a sort of independent streak, certainly. And you're faced with options. I mean, you could go to New York, you could go to California, or Los Angeles. That was kind of the typical decision. I know you ended up doing for Colored Girls in New York in the late 70s. But...
I did not.
Oh, you didn't?
No, my first Colored Girls was at the table.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was doing something else in New York, but as soon as, you know, they had everybody thinking they were going to go away and work at the Open Gate Theater and do rent for the rest of their lives when you're training. Like the last semester, they go like, hey, here's a guy named Marty from New York. Come talk to him, Marty. And you get yourself some headshots, you get yourself a turtleneck, you come get a waiting job, then see what happens. Well, my whole orientation when I was done, it was, why did I do this? I did it because I wanted to make film. I was prepping myself to go do this work. And so some of my colleagues, my other students were saying, oh, Wood is selling out already. She's going to Hollywood to make movies. I said, I'm going to LA to do film. So I packed up my car and I took off because that's what I was preparing myself for. I trained on stage because I knew it would carry. And, film has always been my first love, and it still is.
You mentioned that you had a sort of vision of yourself in California as a young kid. Yeah. Was that related to the LA decision? Yeah. Yeah, we used to come back and forth. My father had relatives in Northern California, but we would come every other year to Southern California, and I guess probably around 4 and a half, I got it. It's like, oh yeah, California. This is how I feel good. And I told my mom when I was a grown woman I was going to live in Southern California. And she asked me why, and she said that I said because the sun comes out every day. You can go to Disneyland whenever you want. So I always saw myself as a grown-up. You might say, you know, a 4-year-old thinking of leaving home, what was happening at home, but I had a great life. But, you know, as an adult, I realized, well, everybody was on vacation. You didn't have to wear a coat. The adults didn't even have to go, yeah, have another bag of Fritos for dinner. Do whatever you want. So, not too long after you moved out there, you were cast in an Alan Rudolph film, correct? And a Robert Altman film, and so work did it feel like it came pretty quickly?
Well, everybody was arriving at the same time, and I met a lot of young actors, and we all lived, we had our apartments and things, but we pooled our money for chicken, and we barbecued all the time, and I'm not going to tell you what else, but we did. And we all encouraged each other, and we weren't working a lot because you couldn't even
get turned down if an agent didn't send you to get turned down back then. There's all these ways into the industry now, but it was very tightly run. And so I got in an improv troupe at the Taper, and very quickly got cast, and actually came back to New York for a couple of plays, and then went back. But when we were doing Color Girls, we're all sitting around between matinee, and you're in your underpants, because remember we had those swirly colored dresses, lady in red, lady in green, and so we were sitting there like with our dance pants on and talking about our hopes and dreams. And I remember Beverly Johnson, who was this cutey doll girl from Connecticut, big, beautiful eyes, and she said, I want to do commercials. That's my dream, is to do commercials. Candy Brown, who had been with Gwen Verdon and Shirley MacLaine on Broadway, she was a Broadway babe. She says, sitcoms, honey, that's, I want to do sitcoms. And it went around, and I said, my long-term dream is to do a film with Robert Altman. And everybody got quiet and went, who is that? And so I started talking to them about Altman. I am not kidding. 3 weeks after we closed, 4 at the most, I get a call, Bob Altman wanted to see me. And I don't think, Bob said he saw that play. I don't think he did, because he would have talked about the play. I think Scotty Bushnell saw that play. Scotty was his right hand, left hand person back then. And so he asked me to come over. Lionsgate used to be over on Westwood Boulevard. And I went over there, and I had been just trying to get anybody to hire me. And I'm gonna tell you this is true. I kept getting told I looked too much like an African, that I didn't look African American. And I said, well, I know a lot of African Americans, and I'm related to a lot of them, and they all look like me. I haven't really put anybody on screen that looks like them, and so I think I make a good African American. Anyway, and this is true. I'm the only person in Hollywood over 50 who was not in Roots. Seriously, they didn't even call me, so it wasn't like I auditioned and didn't get in. Suddenly, they didn't call the African when they said it. But anyway, so I went over there, and there's this crumpled guy at the desk. I just saw some khakis, kind of a small frame, had this fishing hat that was crunched. And I thought, oh, he was talking to the reception. I was thinking, okay, I better just stay to the side, because I didn't know if he was itinerant or what, no, itinerant. He turns around, and these blue eyes just went at me, and it was Paul Newman. And I was just like, and he looked. My hair was braided in. He looked at my hair. He said, "What'd you do to your hair?" And I said, "It's braided." And he said, "Can I touch it?" And I said, "Yes." And so he goes, "You think I can get my hair done?" Because I said, "Yes, my lady can do anything." I went home and actually told the man I was looking at, I said, "I am not washing my braids. Paul Newman touched my braids." But he and Bob were arguing about, there was the World Series, and they had bet a bunch of money and they were going on. So Bob said, "Come in." He talked to me a while. Then he told somebody to go get me some food. It was a whole compound there. So I sat around eating food with people. We watched the movie and all that. So after about 3.5 hours, he just said to me, he said, "Do you want to be in our movie or not?" And I said, "Sure." He said, "I didn't know if you're one of those theater stars." I said, "No, I'm a film person." But inside I was going like, "Oh my God, are you kidding me?" But I was like, "Oh, sure." So I was producing Alan's film, Remember My Name. So I worked with Geraldine Chaplin, Tony Perkins, and Barry and Tony were married at the time. And yeah, that was my first film. So I did that, and I did things with John Kadar. The people that gave me the time of day, I felt left out because all my girlfriends were like, they were doing all these things and people could see them on TV, and it made sense to the people that if they saw you on TV,
that the things that I was doing never quite made it to the mall in Tulsa or Dallas. So as far as everybody was concerned, I was just out in LA. But it was many years before a network said yes to me. It was always those people who were considered, you know, outliers. They were respected and they were tolerated because they were moguls then and they knew better not to give Bob a budget, even if he didn't have a script.
Right, but they were artistes, you know, they were auteurs. What do you, as a young actor, learn on a set, like an Altman set or a Rudolph set? I mean, I would imagine that there's not only you exploring something about your innate talent and craft, but also just like the business of, or the mechanics of making a movie. I mean,
well, I remember asking Alan. It was the first day. I'd never been on a set before. Everybody's been on a movie set now or a TV show. I went up to Alan. I got there really early. They made me up. They did the movie. I played Sally Benbow. No, that was in Help. Okay, what was my name? Anyway, so I was the manager, or I worked in a five and dime where Jodie Page gets, remember my name, she gets out of prison, and so she comes to work there. And I won't tell you if you ever see it, but I had this bowl cut, and I was like, I was a terrible person. It was fun. But they made me up, they did everything. So 2 hours after I get there, they go, nobody's paying attention to me. So they go, Alfre, right now, come on, let's go. And I was it was in the five and dime that used to be over at the corner of, what is it, Overland and Venice. That's all new now in LA. And there were cables, there were lamps, there's all this stuff, and I didn't know what was going on and what was what. But I figured if people weren't talking to me or informing me, I figured, okay, there's Alan, great. He's my guy. And so I said to him, Alan, which one is the camera? And he looked at me and his eyes were wide and he said, it doesn't matter, you just start acting and the camera will find you. And so that was my first day on the set.
It's kind of comforting, actually. I like that idea. You could just, like, don't worry, the camera will figure it out.
But with Bob, when I did Help and I kept up the relationship with him, he worked the way I was very comfortable working, after being in the improv troupe, is everybody just gets dressed. You know your character, you find your character. He says, this is what I want in terms of this person. Now you figure her out and fill her out. So he'd have everybody get dressed, show up, and just kind of sit around, and you might get the thing, here, go in the scene, go right now, go walk in that door. And then, so there's a scene that's going on, and then you come walking in, and the two people that are already on camera are acting, they go, hi! I'm here because everybody in here, says they're healthy, but you're eating tree bark. I mean, it was very early for the healthy. It was a health convention. It was Betty McCall. It was Carol Burnett. Oh my God. Glenda Jackson, James Garner. So they were all in this picture with a bunch of, like random people like me. But yeah, I got to have those wild experiences. So I kept having these experiences with people who were just in it for the storytelling, as opposed to people that were trying to make money. Of course, the studio didn't like that. Or people that were trying to make a career or trying to be, trying to differentiate themselves in terms of standing out.
So, in terms of standing out, in 1983 you did Martin Ritt's Cross Creek, which got you an Oscar nomination, and you starred with Mary Steenburgen, and it was, do you view that as like a breakout, like your breakout moment, so to speak, or do you even think in those terms, or does it just feel like another part of the process?
You know what, I have never broken out. I still haven't. I've worked steadily.
somebody has always been looking for me. It probably took me, 12 years before I had an agent that looked for work for me. And sort of a person that had my sensibility and understood that my goal was longevity. And then after that, I had had 3 people in my life three main film people that they got me. They worked like hell for me. They get told constantly, are you kidding? This says, 50-year-old white man, and I'm like a 30-year-old black woman. And those people they took the brunt of all of that. Right now, I'm gonna tell you this thing, and it might be off the subject, so bring it back. My husband he did a film for me, he wrote for me, that he did on Netflix right now called Juanita. It's so much fun if you want just to have a good time. But Roderick he has about 5 projects for me that he wrote, starting back in 30 years ago, 25 years ago, 20 years ago. And I was working and I was being honored and all of that. And we had friends who were greenlighting things, who were in charge of things. We knew them through politics and or whatever. So nobody would say, I'm not going to take a meeting with Alfre, because then they would get around. They knew enough that that's not, so take the meeting. And then they would actually say, you know what? Who's the young white boy in this Sojourner Truth story? And you go, there isn't one. Can we think of one? What can we have? Because they actually said there's no such thing as having a black woman carry a lead in the film. We got told that, and I'm sure everybody else did, for decades. They would say also, nobody's going to go see that if there's a black woman lead. And everybody in the industry got told, our main sort of people that buy things, the Germans and the Japanese don't want that kind of product. Not only do they not want, you in the lead, if 2 black people are in the film, it's called a black film, even if there's 10 white people in it. And so that was that's the way things were. Of course, that has been dispelled. And my heart's with my Asian sisters right now, my Asian American sisters, because when things happen, then it looks like, oh, okay, well, that was just a fluke. We thought, we got 4 black women, not one, we get 4 black women, maybe people will pay to see them if we put them all together, waiting next to them. Everybody thinks, one thing happened, it's going to change They go like, no, that's just, everything was considered a one-off. Anyway, the great thing is now, people have learned, they've been pushed to know, and I think Netflix had a lot to do with that people around the world want to watch other people from around the world. And we want to watch their product. But anyway, so I've aged out of all of these great things, and I had to come to grips with that. But I'm so excited for, the women. It's like I'm picking a wife for my son. It's like, oh, you know what? Only she can have that. Only she can do that. So I got off on this tangent to say what? We're talking about, aftermath. So when I was nominated, I remember saying to my agent that called me that morning, I said, oh, that's great, and I'll tell you an interesting story. I said, how did I get it? How do you get a nomination? And she said, well, he said, it's the Academy. I said, what's the Academy? Who are they? I had no idea how anything worked. And this is just a bit of reality. My best friend, Elamont Johnson, he was one of those early people that contracted the virus. And back then, as soon as you were HIV positive, people went fast. It was because we all thought it was a death sentence, and fear is not good for your health. So Lamont, he was my best friend. And we had left it was only like 3 months from the time he, took ill. And we left the hospital. He passed on around 3 o'clock that morning. And I was with I was with my husband. We had just gotten married. And he was friends with Lamont and our whole circle. And we came back into the apartment in Manhattan Beach. And the phone call came around 5:30 that I got my nomination. And I didn't know where to put any of that. So it was like, back and forth. And I remember just running down to the water, because I lived on a walking street. And I just jumped in the ocean with my clothes on. And I just washed my spirit, I guess.
Yeah, a grief mixing with a kind of celebration in a strange way. And I think that goes back to what you said earlier about the artistry and the advocacy never being as separate entities for you. And I think that, you've been a really remarkable activist in terms of AIDS research and stuff happening in South Africa. And would you credit the loss of your friend as the kind of inciting event for that sort of activism in your life, or?
No, my activism started at 14. When I was 10, I used to walk precinct with my parents. Now they call it canvassing, and everybody phone banks now. We used to go door to door at election time, and making sure everybody's registered and saying, it's time. I'm sorry that my back is to you. It's time to vote. Come on, get out and vote. But I guess I never saw them separate. One of my first things that I did in high school, one was Peter Weiss's investigation. And I remember we were doing all these improvs to see who was going to be whom in this play, and nobody wanted to be the Nazis. I was the counsel for the defense. Everybody just wanted to be a witness of one of the people that had been perpetrated upon. And I remember Rachel saying, "Oh, don't think you're above being a Nazi. I see your little Nazi ways on out on the courtyard every day, how you separate yourselves and you judge." And so then people are like, "Okay, I'll be the Nazi." But one of my big important things was House of Bernarda Alba, and that's when I was introduced to Lorca. And I keep on the front of my script and in my trailer, every day I look at it, is just, a quote I lead my artistic life by, live it by. And he says, "The poem, the song, the picture are but water drawn from the well of the people. We give it back to them in a cup of beauty, that in drinking they may come to know themselves." That clarifies every day what you're doing. Whether it's a beauty shop, whether you're in sea. I spent 7 months in the BC wilderness. Every scene we shot was outdoors. And you're there knee deep in snow and mud, and they're giving you like little cups of pork pierogies and stuff. But you gotta keep working. And it just reminds you, this is why you're working. You're telling the people stories. You want people to come home from work and wherever they are in the country, now in the world, just sitting in their drawers. You know what drawers are? Sitting in their drawers or their slip, whatever. They're tired from looking for work. They're either beat down by the manager or they're the managers who are overtaxed. They turn that thing on and you tell them a story. That's why we do that work. So Lorca was the beginning of that. I know I did that too.
Well, speaking of, sitting down after work or looking for work and turning something on and watching it, I think one fascinating facet of your career is that we see now there's a blending between film star and television star. You were working really well and successfully in both, kind of, you know, within 10 years of the start of your kind of LA career, right? I mean, like, it was Hill Street Blues and St. Elsewhere, and you were getting, you know, noticed for it. What do you think that was a function of? Was that you just kind of taking whatever work was available? I mean, I think that, you know, obviously there's a lot of discussion about actresses of color having more opportunity on television, maybe they might in film. Can you talk a little bit about the start of your television career?
You know, I've always been willing to go wherever the script was. I don't go to work unless the script is there. I think the writer is queen or king. And really, frankly, if people have been offering me film, after I got a nomination in '84, whenever it was, I would be doing film, because that's what I love doing. But I didn't have that luxury, because nothing changed for me ever after that. The same people came to me, the same type of people, and say, hey, come work with us, we're doing this. So that's, and I didn't just take whatever was there, because there was a lot of bullshit that came up too. But the one power you have, and I tell actors this, is to make a choice. And you can say yes or you can say no. And however you say yes, you're going to keep saying yes in that same vein. So it's not like you can do Bootylicious 1 and then you get to be Eleanor Roosevelt. If you make money in Bootylicious 1, the people that made it are going to keep giving you that money, and the fans are going to go, yeah. You keep, so if you want to play Eleanor Roosevelt, you make choices that lead up to that. Not saying you couldn't do both, but so I had no fortune in terms of being offered the things that my Caucasian contemporary girlfriends who were actors were having, but I had the great fortune of knowing how the way my people know how to do is to make a way out of no way. So I'm a storyteller. I don't care if I was doing street theater. I'm going to go to where I can use my craft, reach people, engage with people, and I'll do it wherever. I had no qualms about it. I didn't even know who the Academy was, so if they wanted me on TV, yes, I'll do Unnatural Causes. Yes, I'll do St. Elsewhere, because those are the people that think like me, and I want to be in business with them.
Yeah, and I think, but also at the time it was like, well, this is later in the 90s, like with Miss Evers Boys, which was a beautiful piece of acting, a really rewarded piece of acting in terms of, hardware, if we're going to be cynical about it, but that was something that at the time, unfortunately, maybe there wasn't the money to put that on the big screen in multiplexes or whatever.
There was money. They didn't do it because they were still saying nobody's going to come into a cinema to watch a black woman.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because more people have seen it anyway than would have seen it for 3 weeks at the Cineplex. I have a story to tell you about Ms. Evers' Boys.
Please do, yeah.
I asked you to go on.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Now it seems like it would just
everybody deserves to be heard. So there's no story that I wouldn't tell, no character that I wouldn't play. I'm not one of those people who are like, oh, I'd never play this, never play. I would play everything. You should see. Some of my best work was season 2 of Luke Cage.
Oh, so good, yeah.
Oh my Lord. And so, yeah, I had a really wonderful time as an actor and as a human being finding this character, Mariah Dillard Stokes. And because my job is always, you'll see this with Clemency if you see it, my job as an actor is to find a person's reality and to find how to think out of their reality. Well, we can go on about how you build character, but I'll cut to the chase. So I'm not a method actor, and I don't use my own
life. I don't think of terrible things to make myself weep. That's psychodrama. And I think the craft is enough. And your humanity, your empathy, your willingness to go where someone else lives in terms of bringing their story forward, that's what you rely on. And so, when I think about it, out of all the billions of people ever born, nobody has the same fingerprints. So, finding character, how do you, we say flesh a character out, how do you stand them up? You have to think back in their childhood. And that's not, even if you're the person standing on the elevator and the door just opens and closes on you, there's no day players. You have to know who you are, and that's the homework that most actors don't do. But that's when you know you believe somebody, because everybody you pass on an elevator, on the highway today, they have a history and a story, and their history is linked to their people's history and on. So all of that to say, you find these people. You're not always likable, but your opinion has no place in it. The way you walk, the way you talk has no place in it. That's what we do. That's the meal. That's the music you get to play. And so we rush towards that, and we want to do all of that and do that work, and that homework, and then do it. So Miss Evers was the first person that I ever worked on. Nurse, her real name in life was Nurse Rivers, and she was a nurse that oversaw the Tuskegee experiment. She was the connection between the government and these field workers who were being told they were treated for syphilis in an experimental drugs, but they weren't being treated. Other people were being treated, but they used them to see how the disease progressed and what happened. And she knew it, but she still stayed in that. And so I can't respect that. But that's not my job. It wasn't about me and my politics. So I had to find, and it was easy when you think about it, to find how this person, who she was, how she was able to say that and believe it. I was there for those men. But she was a person that the first person that I couldn't work on her in my house or in my hotel room. I didn't want her in there. So I did the work on her either just out in my car in public, or I did it in my trailer. But I do get to say whether I want her in my room, but it didn't mean that I couldn't find her and play her, but I didn't want to do that work inside a place where I slept or where my kids came to visit me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that speaks to like the way that you are able to locate a humanity, that's to fleshing out in a lot of work you do, is that you have a good, healthy perspective on, I don't want to take her home, but I'm going to respect her. You know, I think there's a boundary there, which, like you said, discipline. Like I think, and I think about, you know, I was reading something. This is maybe a I don't know where it kind of stands in your recollection, but like your role in Primal Fear, which is a great kind of sleeper hit thriller from the 90s, legal thriller with Richard Gere, Laura Linney, where, you know, that was a role that was written for a white man, right, to play the judge, and then you got cast, and your casting is genius, because you find who this person is, I guess, in your select amount of scenes. I mean, do you approach any role with the same kind of vigor, I guess, or rigor? Like, how do you kind of calibrate whether you're doing comedy or a lead or a supporting or did you not even think in those terms?
No, some things I just want to be in, like 12 Years a Slave. You know, they said it's one scene. I said, it's one scene with Steve McQueen. It's one scene in Mississippi Grind. It's one scene with Ben Mendelsohn. You know, there's no such thing as, you know, choosing that way. And Greg Hopland had always, he directed Primal Fear. He had always wanted to direct. He got into television producing, got successful, and you know, couldn't sort of stop. So he wanted to walk away and try it at this point in his life. And he said, come and play in this film. He said, I need
somebody I know just to be on set with me, because he's coming into the movie world. And he said, I've got this role, it's not really much of anything, it's a judge, but there's several judges, but they're all older white men, so I'm going to try to put them together and kind of make a role. And I said, okay, if you do not change one word of the dialogue, I'll do it after I read it. And so then it was my job to find out if this woman was in the Chicago legal system, and she was a judge, and such an old boy and, you know, backroom kind of justice and politics, and mixed with, you know, the character had killed the archbishop, and he was, you know, there was a lot of kind of sex things happening and all. So I thought, okay, who would she be? How does she get there if she was this black woman? How did she get into that situation, and how would she behave? I really thought she drinks. She doesn't get drunk, but she drinks. And you see her do that, how she stays steady, how she can control her courtroom and what happens on the outside. How does she command respect, knowing what life and race and class is like in Chicago?
Yeah, and I think that shines through, it really does. In general, do you have a particular philosophy about, you know, there's often a conversation about so-called colorblind casting, where we just want the right actor for the role, and then there are also roles that are specifically written for a black woman or an Asian woman. Or do you find, how do you, I guess, work in that kind of selective process? Like are you seeking out one more than the other, or is it again just kind of what comes your way?
Well,
I mean, maybe we see more of that in theater than we do in film and television, you know, where you have the public theater doing very racially diverse productions of Shakespeare or whatever. Maybe it's more prescribed in film and television.
Well, it is and it should be. I do this thing called Sister Soiree, and I won't go into that because that'll take a lot of time, but it is a fabulous thing. I could have done without the Breezy and Inn lady story and talk about Sister Soiree, but, and I say in it, and I get these women together, but I say, if there were 100 roles this past year, and all of us, these women that I get together every Oscar week, and we can talk about it if you want to, maybe 35 women. I'd like for that picture, when people look at that picture, they're like, wow, I could have had a VA. I could have cast her as the museum curator, as the psycho killer, as the damsel in distress, as any of those things, and not wait till it says 5'5", brown skin, went to college, you know, whatever, brown, yellow, black woman. Any of those things, you don't wait for that. If, you know, 100 roles, then me and any of my colleagues should have been, you know, we'll give the cakes the Queen of England. They can do that. I don't want to be Queen Elizabeth. But anything else, if it doesn't say that, in America, everybody does everything. You get in a car wreck in Des Moines, outside of Des Moines, the EMTs, what do you call it? Is that the EMT? The EMS? Yeah. They come rolling up, and a big skinhead will get out with tattoos and piercing everywhere. He'll get out, pull you out from under the car. They load you in. Maybe a Jamaican brother will put you in the back of the truck. You get in there. An East Indian woman will hook you up. They're like, don't worry, we'll get you there. You go flying down the road. You get to the hospital. They take you in there. There's a little white lady who's about 70 going like, baby, do you have insurance? And you know, she does that. You go into the operating room. My friends Sugar Bear or Mimi, who are ER nurses, they rip your clothes off and say, it's okay. And then like a Chinese American woman will come in there and say, I'm your doctor, don't worry. All of that happens in America. It can't be handled in America. But yet, if it didn't say skinhead, Jamaican, blah, 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 they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't cast that way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's very, very true, and I think that that brings us really well to Clemency, which is a movie that is...
You excite me, I shouldn't be so...
Oh, that's what we want here in Sag Harbor. We want some excitement. We may even need it. So I know that some people in the audience had a chance to see it, but some haven't. But I saw this film at Sundance, and not to speak out of school, but I was talking to New York Times film critic Manola Dargis after we saw it, and she said, that's a real movie. And I totally agreed with her, because it has that full-bodiedness that sometimes independent cinema can seem a little flimsy, and I think also sometimes movies about social justice issues, like this is about the death penalty and our idea of what punishment is, they can feel a little preachy, a little pedantic. But this is a really soulful human movie. Can you talk a little bit about the experience for you of making it, and now that you're in the role of promoting it, essentially?
I'm at Chinonye 2 years out. Bronwyn Cornelius, our producer, called. She wanted to meet. She said, we want to send you this script. I got the script, and I had never heard that story. I never heard that point of view. Before that, my ignorance was, if a woman wants to be a warden or is a warden, she must have, as a, thinking about her past, she must have been pulling the legs off of frogs or stomping on squirrels or something. And then you read, and it's a challenge. It's like, who are these people? But you knew you hadn't seen their side of the equation, and it was a part of the equation that was necessary if we're ever going to get to solving the problem. And so I met with them. When I talked to Chinonye, she talked about her, the type of films that she liked and the filmmakers she liked, and they all, the one thing they had in common, I can't tell you which three there were now, was pacing. We would call it, the ones that go like, they call it European pacing, but what it is, a sure hand of a filmmaker using time and using pacing in a way that helps them tell the story, however that pacing goes. And so immediately I wanted to work with her because, and she's a young woman doing that. And so we went off. She said, I want you to come to Ohio with me. So we went on a prison tour. We went to about 5 prisons, men's maximum, death row facility, medium, women's medium facilities, and we met with incarcerated people. We met with the wardens, administrators, condemned men, and that was the tough part, delivering a performance once you got it, because once you talk to people and you realize that lives are in the balance and people are talking to you because nobody has ever looked at them or asked them what their story is, then you're charged with it. You've been called to do that, and so it's easy to focus. That's all you have to do is deliver that. So after that, there was this, I would spontaneously weep just, because we didn't shoot for another 6 weeks. I would just, I could touch this flower and just burst into tears for about a minute and then keep going. But it was because there was such injustice on all sides of the equation, and people were caught in it. They were not getting out. The people that I met will probably be put to death. And I sat and chatted with them, what they wanted to I listened, mainly, that's Chinonye and I both, but they got to be with us, and they each were talking about their kids. It was the same as if you just wanted some company, and you'd sit and start talking about your kids, and maybe asking it, I'm having a problem with her. She's not making good choices in guys, and But we're behind, they're chained to floors, and we're behind several layers within a maximum security prison of, fences and doors and guns and all of that. And you realize that the people there that are overseeing, the wardens, they are women like you, your cousin, somebody you might be at your church. They come to it from mental health. They come to it from social work. They are people that know that it has to be, you have to have protocol, it has to be well managed because it's going to happen, so you feel like you can bring some dignity and some safety to the whole thing. Their whole operation is to make sure that all 2,000 people stay safe. And how does that happen? Anyway, I forgot why we started talking about this, but you always learn as an actor. That was one of the perks that happened way early on, is that you never stop learning, because every time you go to work, you got to find something out, unless you're playing somebody like my Juanita, I know because of the journey I've had and the people I've been with all my life. But you're always in a constant state of learning as an actor. And so not only just learning about places, people, language, everything. I play, I'm going to go into that. But it's also learning about human beings, learning how people are. And it may not change your mind, but to be able to look at the world out of the eyes of the sensibilities of somebody you really don't disagree with, that you never knew, it changes you. And that is it's an honor and it's humbling. And so when you get to camera, it is really sacred for you to deliver what it is you learned, what you found out, rather than anything to do with yourself. What did you ask me about that?
Well, I asked about fantasy, and I think you gave a beautiful answer. I wish I could ask you more, but I'm afraid we are out of time. But you were speaking about an honor and being humbled, and I feel that way to be able to speak to you. And thank you so much, Alfre, and thank you all.